From Peterson sharing a super inappropriate adult video to his millions of followers, to him straight up victim-blaming women during the Me Too movement, here are some of Jordan Peterson's most controversial moments of all time. Now, I've got to talk about the time he shared a highly inappropriate video on Twitter. And guess what? He got the context and info behind the video all wrong. Here's what happened. Back in March 2023, the controversial Canadian psychologist came across a video that he claimed was from a Chinese community party sperm bank. The video had some pretty weird stuff going on. And of course, Peterson didn't want to miss the opportunity to get a dig on China. He asked just what was going on in the country and if they'd adopted some kind of bizarre 3-children policy. But as it turns out, the video wasn't from a sperm bank. In fact, it wasn't from China at all. It was actually an adult film. And let's just say, Peterson was totally off about his assumptions as to what was going on in it. You can only imagine his embarrassment when he realized just what he'd actually ended up sharing. Of course, he decided to take the video down. But once something's on the internet, it's hard to really scrub it clean. And tons of people saw the tweet and made fun of Jordan for sharing it before he got the chance to remove it. And get this, even his own daughter, Michaela Peterson, joined in on the criticism. She tweeted out to Jordan saying that he can't just go around tweeting stuff like this. But that's just the start of his controversies. I mean, let's not forget the time the dude shed tears because incels considered him a hero. This one is really for the history books. So back when Peterson was invited over to Piers Morgan's show, Morgan confronted the psychologist about his, let's just say, weird group of online followers. For those of y'all who don't know, Peterson is really popular among the incel community. Some of them even consider the guy their hero. Folks have even called out Jordan in the past for catering to this demographic of men. Take, for example, director Olivia Wilde, who said that for her movie, Don't Worry Darling, she wanted someone who really felt like they were crazy as the main villain. So, of course, she based it on Jordan Peterson, precisely because of his hero status among the incel community. So, of course, Piers had to bring this topic up when Peterson appeared on his show. Piers was all like, "Are you okay with being considered a hero to these people?" And guess what? Instead of distancing himself from them, Jordan got all emotional. Like the dude actually had tears in his eyes. He said that he doesn't like the term incels to begin with. But the thing is that they're as much of a marginalized group as any other. So why shouldn't Peterson be a voice for them? Folks weren't too happy about this, especially because not everyone considers the incel community to be all that marginalized. People called Jordan out for further catering to a crowd that's been known to do some pretty dangerous stuff in the past. And if that wasn't weird enough, wait till you hear this. Peterson once got angry at a paper towel dispenser. Yes, really. This has got to be one of his most controversial but equally bizarre moments ever. Here's how it went down. Back in February 2023, Peterson made a tweet where he called out woke moralists. He was finally taking a stand against their tyranny, which he considered petty, and he was sure that their actions weren't going to save the planet. So, just what was it that got the dude all riled up, spewing out so many controversial statements? Well, apparently, the paper towel dispenser he was using had a sign asking people not to use more than an arm's length of the paper towel when drying their hands. Yes, something that small got him this worked up. And he didn't even stop there. Jordan further tweeted out a few more reasons why this completely grinds his gears. He mentioned that things like this are celebrated when they shouldn't be, and they're spreading everywhere, especially because people are willfully blind to it. Again, we're talking about a harmless sign on a paper towel dispenser here. Of course, folks went wild in the comments, talking about how Peterson was beyond ridiculous for calling out paper towel tyranny. But get this. Some of his supporters even joined his side and started posting videos of them flushing entire paper towels down the drain for no reason. Now, I don't know about you, but that's what real pettiness feels like. Anyway, with his supporters and critics clashing in the replies, this weird tweet somehow ended up becoming one of his more controversial moments. Just like the time the dude straight up tried to correct the Pope on Christianity. Now, it's one thing to win debates against unsuspecting college students. But when you're up against the Pope, and the topic is about Christianity, you best believe you're gonna get outmatched. But nope, Jordan Peterson thought he could win against Pope Francis. So the Pope tweeted out how social justice demands that people fight against causes like poverty and inequality. Plus, people should stand up against anyone who denies social and labor rights. as well as anyone trying to take away someone else's dignity. Sounds pretty good so far, right? I mean, I'm not sure how anyone could have an issue with Pope Francis's statement here. Well, as it turns out, Peterson wasn't a fan, and he called out the Pope by saying that there wasn't anything Christian about social justice. In fact, Peterson was so sure, he kind of forgot how the Pope was pretty much describing how good Christians have always been told to act anyway. But I suppose, regardless of the overall message, Peterson just didn't like the fact that the term social justice was used. And well, that's enough for him to ignore the rest of the tweet, completely missing the point in the process. And that's not all. People didn't like that he basically tried to out-Christian the freaking Pope. I mean, is that even possible? Folks even mentioned how there was nothing that the Pope tweeted out that went against Christian beliefs, and that Jordan was just mixing in his own bias, which was keeping him from seeing the positive aspects of Pope Francis's tweet. Oh, and let's not forget the time he said climate change scientists were trying to fit an agenda. Most people would think it's impossible to deny the existence of climate change. But not Jordan Peterson. While on the Joe Rogan Experience, he said how scientists purposely skew data to make it seem like the problem is much larger than it really is. And this is something that apparently really bothers Peterson. He added that there are tons of factors that can affect climate, but most of the time, scientists don't consider these and only opt for the explanations that best suit their narratives. And get this, Peterson even mentioned that experts do this on purpose to create some kind of fake hype around a potential climate apocalypse. Now, this is starting to border on conspiracy theory territory, if you ask me. But Peterson was totally serious about this. He thinks the data these scientists are using is off by at least 100 years, and there's probably no imminent danger that the Earth is facing right now. Or at the very least, it's not nearly as exaggerated as some of the scientists would have you believe. Obviously, this didn't fly well with most people, especially those who know a thing or two about climate change, and how it isn't just some kind of hoax being spread for the fun of it. But there's one other controversial moment folks just can't forget, and that's when he called out the Me Too movement. During an interview with National Post columnist Christy Blatchford, Jordan didn't try to hide the fact that he wasn't all too trusting about the women who were speaking about all the negative experiences they've had working in Hollywood. In fact, Peterson even shared his hesitation when it came to believing their stories. He questioned why so many women suddenly decided to speak up, especially about events that happened literally 15 to 20 years ago. Jordan was implying that some women were using the movement simply as a way to enter the limelight and boost their own careers. People took issue with that, especially because they thought Peterson was blaming the victims and disregarding the bravery and courage it takes to speak up. This wasn't the only time Peterson openly discussed his issue with the Me Too movement. In fact, he's been quite vocal about how he considers it dangerous and generally isn't approving of it. Safe to say, he's gotten quite a bit of flack over the years for his controversial takes on the movement. But I have a feeling he hasn't let that deter him, and he probably still doesn't trust the women who chose to share their experiences back then. So from him straight up victim-blaming women during the Me Too movement, to Peterson sharing a super inappropriate adult video to his millions of followers, those were some of Jordan Peterson's most controversial moments of all time.